Hello everyone, Highlander here from MTG Cardsmith doing another custom Magic the Gathering card review. And today we're reviewing another card by Hergusbergus. This is from his Commander-themed colorless set. Or at least colorless is part of the set. What do we got here? We got a legendary artifact called the Void. Very cool art. I like this art a lot. Looks like you got like 4 Jawas going into a giant shadowy butthole, you know? Very cool. So this is 4 and 2 colorless, so this is an artifact. Colorless, man, colorless. You're pushing it with the colorless things, you know, like artifacts. Like, okay, horrors are colorless. Artifacts are, I guess horrors require colorless. But artifacts require colorless. I mean, artifacts are already just colorless. I don't know, whatever. I don't like it, but it's not the end of the world. I would, if it were me, I would just make it cost 6, but that's just me. Okay, so whenever the Void enters... Okay, hold on. First of all, is there not a Magic card just called the Void? Let's look. Another Void. Voices. All right, you're fine. You're off the hook. When the Void enters the battlefield, exile all graveyards. Okay. Wait, exile all graveyards. Is that correct wording? It might be. It might be. Exile all graveyards. Let's see. Exile all cards. Let's see. Exile all cards from all graveyards. Yeah, I think that's probably... Oh, no. Oracle text, you're good. You're good. All right. So it comes in, you exile all graveyards. If a card would enter the graveyard, exile it instead. You may play cards exiled with the Void, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast those spells. I see. So... Sorry, the reason I'm pausing is because I think this is a non-bow with the previous 2 cards. I mean, I get the idea behind this is cool, right? It's like, okay, so this card is actually incredibly powerful, right? Because you don't actually have to activate this. You don't need any like ways to enable this card. It's literally just like my opponent plays Lightning Bolt. Oh, now I can play Lightning Bolt, right? It gets exiled. Now I can cast it colorlessly. This card's really, really powerful. If this were me, this is so other than the colorless requirement, if this just costs 6, this would be like an auto include in like every deck almost, because it's like you get to double up your own cards, and you get to cast all of your opponent's cards as well. So this is just like crazy card advantage. I think this is probably a little bit too much. If it were me, I would probably change this to like whenever whenever an effect you control would cause an opponent... No, okay, sorry. What this should say is like whenever an opponent mills cards on your turn, something like that. Whenever your opponent mills 1 or more cards on your turn, exile those cards. You may play cards exiled with the Void, blah, 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 right? That I like better, because first of all, it means you actually have to enable this card. You have to actually mill them, right? It's not just like they cast Lightning Bolt and now I get to cast Lightning Bolt. You have to actually mill Lightning Bolt. And it works with your mill cards, which we've already looked at 2 of them, right? Now, I think the way this one, if I'm not mistaken, the way this works actually doesn't work. It non-bows with these other cards. So, for example, with Void Messenger here. So, mill is shorthand for put card from their library into their graveyard, right? So, for each creature card, put into that player's library from their graveyard this way, that player loses 1 life, right? Now here, if a card would enter a graveyard, exile instead. So it never goes to the graveyard from their library, meaning this actually never triggers. Like, yes, this feeds the void, but you don't actually, you're removing your triggers, and it's the same thing with Yola. Yola. You never actually get the payoff of playing this. Right? And I'm assuming that's not intentional, because this clearly is supposed to be in the same deck. So, yeah, that is, I think, a major issue. And the power level, as it's currently worded, is just bonkers high. Just bonkers high. I think even with the colorless requirement, this is like, I think this is like a format warping. This is like a format warping card, right? Like, it's almost like everyone will want to play this card, because... Also, how does this work if there's multiples in play? If a card would enter a graveyard, exile instead. You may play card exiles with void. How does this work if there's multiples? So, okay, this gets into weird ruling territory, right? Because let's say you have this and your opponent has it. Essentially, whoever trigger goes on the stack last gets to play the exiled card, right? Because, and I don't know how that ordering is determined. Whether it's like clockwise, like mine goes on the stack, then yours goes on the stack, then yours goes on the stack. You know, I don't know exactly how that works, but somebody wins the battle if there's multiples, and the other person gets nothing, basically. So, unfortunately, there's a lot of issues with this design. I think the idea here is cool, but there's quite a few issues with this card, and I think for that reason I have to give it a 5 out of 10. Look, the idea here is very cool. I recommend doing something like this. This is how I would, if this were my card, this is how I would restructure it. The void. When the void enters the battlefield, target opponent, or you can even, if you even want, each opponent mills, let's just say 3 cards. Okay? Whenever an opponent mills cards on your turn, exile those cards. Let's say mills 1 or more cards on your turn, exile those cards. You may play cards exiled with the void, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast those spells. Period. Okay, so this is how I would reword it personally. Even this is very powerful. Even this, like the fact that milling cards is essentially you drawing cards, and I mean, that's really powerful, right? I mean, this card already draws you up to 3 cards. I mean, you can mill lands, and it doesn't let you play lands. So, but at least this requires some enabling. I would probably make this cost like 7 or 8, something like that, just because of how powerful it is. I suppose if they kill the void, you can no longer cast. Maybe play, yeah, because this doesn't say as long as they're exiled. So I think if they kill the void, you no longer get to play those exiled cards, if I'm not mistaken. But this is probably how I would restructure this card. As it stands, the idea is very, very cool, but there's just so many issues with with the way this card is currently designed, that it's kind of you know, there's a lot of issues with it, and it would be, I think the way it currently is, it would be very unfun to play against, not only because of how powerful it is, and the fact that because it's so powerful and like you can play it in almost any deck, basically everybody would play this card, but also because then you get in that issue of like one person gets all of the cards and nobody else does, and it just gets really complicated. So yeah, 5 out of 10 for this card, even though this is probably my favorite idea of the three. I think the execution on this one is really lacking. So yeah, that's my review of The Void. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.